Hello, welcome back to Book Readings for Life is Magic, my new book. We are going to start today with Chapter 7. This is the fifth installment of the book readings. You can find the previous ones on my channel here on YouTube. Chapter 7 is called Long Way Down. As mentioned, Steve's cozy, handicapped accessible apartment is located inside a retirement complex about 5 minutes from Mom's house. About 2 months after the intervention on ice, given her added energy since retirement, she went to Steve's one morning to rearrange some of his items in storage. Mom keeps an old 6-foot wooden stepladder down the hall to reach items high up on the shelves. Each tenant has their own small locked area separated by chicken wire. Anticipating the seasonal change from spring to summer, Mom swapped Steve's long sleeve shirts for short sleeves on an overhead rack about 10 feet high. She walked up the ladder backwards. With her right foot on the top rung, she swung her left atop one of the 3 stacked plastic storage totes. I remember thinking, this is going to work, she told me later. Famous last words times infinity. Here we go again. Mom's straddle was precarious and a bit unwise, but much like her offspring, me specifically, she is sometimes insufficiently patient and careful in potentially dangerous situations. Bull in a china shop, etc. This is in parentheses, this part. She will also never admit that she drives her car like a maniac, riding up people's backsides like she's on her way to stop a fire. I used to drive like that too, but have mellowed somewhat with age and too many youthful speeding tickets. Where the hell did you learn to drive? She asked years ago. 16 years of being in the car with you, I replied. Yep, we laughed. Coincidentally, a few days ago, I had a dream that Mom was driving us fast in a sports car through a grassy field. From the omniscient point of view, I could see that we were catching air like on the Dukes of Hazzard TV show and laughing. She mowed down small plants and trees and narrowly missed larger ones and other obstacles which would have pasted us. We almost hit a few. The little animals on the ground scurried to avoid us. To me, the dream represented a playful caution about maybe taking things a bit easy. But when I texted her about it, she said, dream message, ... Keep on going no matter what gets in your way. Lol. Is that really the message? I don't know if the rabbits we terrorized in the dream would agree. That's my mom, yep. Okay, close of the parentheses. Now back to Mom on the ladder. Unfortunately, or inevitably, while overextending to reach the clothing rack, the top of the middle plastic tote collapsed, and the top tote sunk into it. Mom lost her balance and was headed for a bad fall. And it had only been a few weeks since Steve's rescue in the diner parking lot. As you know, gravity usually works in a quick, precise way, consistent with the laws of physics, like when your car keys slip from your fingers and quickly hit the ground. However, to Mom's great surprise, she didn't slam onto the concrete floor on her back. Yes, she was falling, of that there was no doubt, but inexplicably as she perceived it, the journey to the floor below was in super slow motion. Yes, really, why not? As she fell with outstretched limbs, Mom noticed her body turning in midair, like someone was adjusting her position on the way down. She landed on her butt on a cardboard box, feet up, entirely unhurt. This shouldn't have been possible, but timely, unseen assistance had once again been provided. Of her descent, Mom said, I had a lot of time to think. In fact, when she told me about it later, she said the journey to the floor felt so slow that she laughed and said to herself, geez, how long is this going to take? What's going to fall on me when I get down there? Incredulous and laughing, I told her that she was the only person in the world who could possibly complain about how long it took for, presumably, a friendly spirit to keep her from cracking her skull after falling off a ladder because it took too long. And right after, Steve had just been rescued, plus his whole hospital episode before that. She laughed. In parentheses, it says here, of this episode, my friend Diane said, I think your mom slowed down time. If time is a human construct, well then, she constructed it to her own liking. Who's to say she didn't? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Diane sounds a little bit like my mom, don't you think? Close parentheses. A few hours later, Mom fell yet again off a shorter ladder while adjusting the blinds in Steve's apartment. It was less dramatic, but again she was somehow uninjured. This time she straddled between a short step stool and Steve's living room table. When she lost her balance, she instinctively reached out to grab the thin rope that raises the blinds, not that it should have helped much or at all. Of her second fall, she said, "I looked at my hand and said something's not right here." She was waiting for the blinds to fall and crash. Steve was watching and thinking the same thing. Again, she landed softly on the ground. The blinds stayed up too. "Steve, seriously?" she said. He said, "I know." They were both surprised. Well, kind of. I told Mom she'd better not get too cavalier and use up all her angel credits by falling too often and not heeding warnings. "What if they're busy doing something else more important next time?" I asked. "They'll know I'm in trouble and they'll come," she replied with the big smile and sarcastic overconfidence that is a charming family trait. I said something like, "Yeah, well, you shouldn't count on it. Seriously, how many little miracles are we allowed to have?" I don't know if Mom's ladder incident proves Einstein's theory of the relativity of time, but if it does, then that would be the relative relativity of time, since my mom and I are related. Hardy har. Tip your waitress 2 shows nightly. Thanks. Okay. That is the end of Chapter 7. Chapter 8 is called Book Fair or Unfair. Book Fair or Unfair. All right. Mom told me about the ladder incident while we were at a small press book fair on Porter Avenue in downtown Buffalo, very near my house. My supportive friend Pam suggested I try to sell my then new book there, so I rented a single day table for $50. So this is my first book. We were talking about God Laughs at Dirty Jokes, which came out in 2014. About 100 vendors were on hand selling books, fanzines, buttons, and other items. Mom brought a nice tablecloth, flowers, and a heart-shaped glass dish with 3 mints for my book display. It was a lively atmosphere. Many people stopped to read the back cover of the book and my placard summary, but I didn't get a sale until the 3rd hour. It was the only one of the day to a young woman in her 30s. I think she said she too was a writer or possibly a comedian. She seemed nice, open. I think the stories in my book are universal, but the premise is pretty far into outer space. Maybe I'm ahead of my time. So in a way, I almost expected it to have limited appeal, though I was disappointed to find it to be true. Does my not entirely optimistic attitude about whether people will accept my message also affect what comes? Or am I simply reading humanity's limitations accurately at this point in time and evolution? Who can say? We had a great afternoon, though. Talked and joked the whole time. Got into life stuff, surrounded by a soup of creative people. Later in the afternoon, Mom told me another story about when she was a little girl growing up on Buffalo's South Side. One day there was a bad car accident that injured her friend Maureen. At first the neighbors thought it might have been Mom, since both girls had curly brown hair. When Mom heard about the accident, for some reason she imagined herself as Maureen's caretaker. If Maureen had a broken arm or was in a wheelchair after coming home from the hospital, Mom had already decided she would wheel her around and help her. Sadly, she never got a chance as Maureen was killed that terrible day. I wondered if Mom's thoughts about helping Maureen got to bouncing around in the universe. Clearly, Mom's instinct to care for those in need was already strong. Both my brother Justin and Steve were born greatly premature. If Justin had survived, he likely would have had physical disabilities similar to Steve's. Even in retirement, Mom gave much of her time as a hospice volunteer. It's baked into her DNA. Mom said that if Justin had lived, she may never have tried to have Steve, so there's some kind of gift in there from brother to brother. Either way, she absolutely ended up as the caretaker and agrees this was her destined role in this life. I said that perhaps she, my brothers, and I, and maybe others, planned our lives this way, this time. We hadn't yet been introduced to the concept of light workers and the supposed multi-generational plan by Spirit to lift Earth's vibration, but now we buy in. When I was younger, I never would have imagined writing about spirit because I was so deeply antagonistic towards religion. But religion is indeed a man made construct, which usually or often gets corrupted over time by the entrenched powers that be for their own selfish purposes, while spirit belongs to everyone and is always free. This shift in consciousness about the role that spirituality plays in life and its independence from formal religion feels like it has been building for some time and may be peaking through more since 2020 when the world got flipped upside down. Our family journey into spirit was only possible because of the unique, unlikely alignment of supernatural events among Steve, Justin, Mom, and me, which helped to convince me I wasn't making things up or insane or not more so than the usual person. Perhaps it often takes teams of like minded souls working together to achieve certain ends on earth, whether they are of great or small impact. And it seems, at least partly, that my fate was to be here with this crew for a window of opportunity, no matter how few or how many embrace the hopeful message. I'm quietly promoting along with others in the extended global spiritual community. After 4.5 hours at the book fair, Mom and I felt we had a nice enough day together, and we packed up before it ended at 6 p.m. We skipped the second day, but it didn't feel like a letdown. One book sale. That's how it goes. Okay, that's the end of Chapter 8. Chapter 9 is called Life is Magic. Life is magic. Literally, not only figuratively. But why? The universe is a sentient, ever-expanding contradiction because the existence of an all-powerful creator of reality who always is, always was, and always will be is totally impossible. How could an omniscient being or beings exist to create our universe? That would be insane. It's the greatest paradox of all and the original one. However, if God really does exist, who created God? That's a paradox too. It can't be answered ever. Go ahead and try. I'll wait. Equally impossible is the notion which many scientists favor that our home, the universe, burst into existence on its own from absolutely nothing, with no creator to set it in motion. But if true, this would defy everything that we've learned and think we know about reality. Classical physics requires that no energy or matter in the universe can ever be created or destroyed. It simply changes form. An enormous something like the universe can't manifest itself. Every effect requires a cause. So we still have a paradoxical origin to all existence from my point of view. Neil deGrasse Tyson never answered my email on this subject, but maybe someday he'll understand. To summarize, there is either a God or gods who created the universe, or there is no God and the universe somehow birthed itself. We know that one of these possibilities must be true because we exist to contemplate and debate the subject. Therefore, regardless of whichever belief you hold, the paradoxical nature of existence is unresolvable. It's illogical and counterintuitive, yet it's our reality. Since our elegant universe exists but cannot be rationally explained by the laws of nature, it is by definition inherently supernatural and beyond strict scientific explanation and reasoning. You need an extra ingredient to make the universe work, one that just so happens to be impossible and not rationally comprehensible. Outside of strict left brain logic, there's dreamy abstraction and the mysterious craftsmanship of the right brain to ponder the existence of the ultimate artist magician who also happens to be a supercomputational mathematician. What's required to solve the paradox of existence is literal magic. The impossible that is possible, and the unreal that is real. The living contradiction and acceptance that life is magic. One dictionary defines magic as the ability to apparently influence the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces like sorcery or witchcraft. Another says that it is the use of special powers to make things happen that would normally be considered impossible, as in fairy tales. Sounds about right. Doesn't that perfectly describe our impossible, paradoxical universe and apparent reality? Magic is defined as beautiful, enchanting, marvelous, mysterious, and miraculous, like all the best things in life and the world we inhabit. When we forget that life is incredible, yet logically impossible, that's our own fault. And if, as I've come to believe over many years of experiences, the Creator indeed exists, then his, her, its ideas, wishes, and dreams have been manifested into the reality we inhabit too. Our highly unlikely home is God's magical construction, of which we are participatory beneficiaries with the ability to choose our own paths within the apparent laws of physical existence. Excuse me. Once you accept that what's impossible is not only possible but natural, and that magic is the true foundation of reality, then the closer you get to experiencing and perceiving life as it really is, however wonderful and absurd. Yes, that's the end of Chapter 9. Chapter 10 is called Quantum Mechanics and Manifestation. Quantum physics, technology, and science are beginning to confirm ideas that were once purely confined to mysticism and religious belief towards the realization that math and magic are not only not in conflict, but are one, as manifest in God's creation. Though I believe we are of God, there is debate as to whether or to what extent humans can claim magic for ourselves. I strongly believe we can request divine assistance be exercised on our behalf and for those we care about in the form of prayers or thoughts which are one and the same, because I've seen them work repeatedly. Some people think of this as what's called manifestation, in which we try to influence the course of reality through our hopes in imitation of the Creator. Remember, thoughts, prayers are energies in the air created by each mind and soul. Actually, everything that exists is perpetually vibrating energy as discussed. The physical realm we know of vibrates within a specific range of frequencies, and spiritualists and some physicists agree that other realms dimensions are possible, existing at higher and possibly also lower vibrations which most people can't perceive. But empaths, intuitive psychics, and sensitives, as well as some of those we would consider to be on the autism spectrum or who have other unique mental conditions, know with certainty that they exist. Now, a quantum physics refresher and how it provides another angle on the possible nature of reality and the power of human prayers to affect events on a large and small scale. Recent subatomic research suggests that in every possible moment of life, infinite or nearly infinite outcomes are possible. Electrons blink in and out of existence inside atoms, declaring no position until they're observed by an outside intelligence, like scientists. Researchers have been amazed by this for decades. The electrons are everywhere and nowhere at the same time until somebody looks for them, and more precisely, looks at them. If this sounds paradoxical or even somewhat magical, then we're on familiar ground. In each moment, reality itself appears to be undetermined and sits waiting as a soup of particles for an intelligence or intelligences to interact with it. Then, once observed by an intelligence, subatomic particles suddenly fix into place. The electron's position is declared. This creates a moment, which is followed by another moment, and then many moments in sequence, which is possibly what creates time. On Earth, the bulk of intelligent life is human, so we're the primary beings impacting the local quantum reality, and an argument can be made that all life on Earth, animals, plants, trees, insects, algae, and even seemingly inanimate objects like stones and mountains, which likely possess awareness, though not necessarily sentience, impacts what comes into existence too, and not just here, but on planets throughout the nearly countless galaxies in the universe. Perhaps we co-construct reality not just with our intelligent presence, but also by how we live. What we believe and how we feel, think, and act affects what manifests in each individual life and in the collective whole we share. So sometimes we get trapped in loops of self-defeat when we fail to recognize our own patterns of circular self-sabotage and negative thinking. If you focus only on the downside of things, it's all you will see, and it will reinforce that reality. This is why hope, courage, honesty, generosity, kindness, thoughtfulness, and respect for others are more useful. Better things come into being from better intentions. And if quantum reality is indeed as malleable as I believe, why not try to bend it towards that which is innately beneficial for all of humanity and makes the world more just? The full extent of our ability to influence the energies which constitute reality is an open question, but let me make a good case for the affirmative. I'm momentarily skipping ahead a bit, but in 2020, when my mom was going through a rough emotional patch during the COVID-19 pandemic, one night I prayed that she be surrounded by the loving white light of God and experience a strong feeling of well-being and comfort. The next morning, she told me that she had awakened in the night to a beautiful, unexpected sensation, like being wrapped in a warm blanket of hope. I didn't necessarily expect that obvious or immediate of a response to the prayers, but I was very grateful that they actually seemed to have worked. Mom experienced relief from fear and felt comfort. This happened again a few years later when I prayed for the health of a friend's mother who was ill. The friend happened to be a very powerful positive psychic named Kim Carey, with whom I occasionally correspond, as mentioned. I admire Kim and feel that she lives what she preaches. And when I prayed for her mom and their family, I immediately felt elevated and surrounded by warm feelings of love and kindness too. In the moment of the selfless act of prayer, I got back as much as I gave. It was beautiful and strong. So, what actually happened when I prayed? Did the prayers actually affect the fabric of undetermined quantum reality? Or were they perhaps received by spirit guides or angels who leaped into action, enveloping my mom in love and hopefully sending healing light to Kim's mom, too? I can't fully define it, but something meaningful and deeply life affirming occurred, which I interpret as successful manifestation. I see no reason why prayers for everyone we care about wouldn't at least have some positive effect. Pray for others as much as you care to. I even prayed for my cats to get along, and it helped. Not long after this, I watched another YouTube tarot card reading by a woman named Becca, whose channel is called Tarot Mom. She's a very warm, positive psychic with a strong maternal quality. Becca discussed the decades-long effort of light workers to raise the energetic vibration of Earth through prayer, as mentioned, so that we might live in a more enlightened environment closer to nature and God. Becca talked about the closeness to spirit and source, which she felt strongly around Easter 2021. I felt that Easter too, and previous recent Easters as well. I was palpably aware of a heightened feeling in the air, as if all my earthly problems were perhaps only half as heavy as usual. I felt light and more naturally joyful. It was as if somehow the strong, loving presence of non-denominational Jesus was closer to earth at that time of year, given his great personal sacrifice. As the patterned behaviors of the planets and stars are entirely cyclical, it feels as if the major events of Jesus's life are attached to a specific time of the year on Earth that comes around again and again like the planets themselves. In this sense, astrology and astronomy are united. Important events on Earth might become stamped onto the fabric of time, which always advances but also endlessly repeats as a wheel of fortune. Nothing remains unchanged, but the energies attached to global events may be revisited as they come back around to the top of the wheel. Here's a related free association tangent I've kept in its original form with a few small additions. As in astrology and astronomy, the universe is gear-like. It behaves like a quantum supercomputer powered by magic, i.e., God. So life is magic and also of God. And we are all bits of God. So life is also us. The timing of certain events in physical reality is at least partly dictated by the wheel of fate as it relates to astrological periods of more order or more chaos, depending on whether it is a time of expansive building or the necessary destruction that paves the way for the new, and depending in part upon the relationships between powerfully large gravitational and magnetic bodies in our solar system, including the sun, moon, and planets, which are then imitated in endless other solar systems throughout the universe. As human bodies are made mostly of water, human beings feel the powerful gravitational and electromagnetic pull of the moon, sun, and planets as part of our daily existence, but mostly unconsciously. Just as the moon pulls the oceans at high tide, so too do the heavenly bodies tug at us, with an effect not yet fully understood but absolutely felt. When certain planetary bodies align in orbit relative to us on Earth, we feel their characteristic influences more overtly. The signs of the zodiac correspond to all these planetary machinations, emphasizing their individual traits for periods of time in repeating loops. Astronomy and astrology are one. Meanwhile, other major world events are driven by the free will that comes with human consciousness and intelligence that is gifted to each individual soul by God. We each have a role to play within the somewhat predetermined cycles of the astrological machinery, but it's our free will that keeps us from simply being cogs, though it is likely that certain results are more achievable when the gears of the big machine, the changing signs of the zodiac, and winds of fate are in better alignment with our goals. The universe is an ongoing collaborative creation between we mortal beings of free will and spirit itself, as noted. So that's the end of that free association section. I can talk. The Dalai Lama recently stated that if in time new scientific discoveries eventually disprove aspects of Buddhism, then Buddhism must change to accommodate science. I like this dynamic point of view in which spiritual beliefs exist along a continuum instead of being stuck to a fixed dogmatic place around which one constructs a defensive perimeter for all times. Mike Johnson. That's not in the book. He wasn't speaker yet, and he won't be for much longer. Considering how much our understanding of reality has changed in just the short period of the Consider how much our understanding of reality has changed in just the short period of the industrial age. Whenever we think we know how the world works and how the world will forever be, we are always inevitably interrupted by yet another curveball from God and creation, which shatters previous presumptions. We are repeatedly humbled and reminded how little we know, and that life here is all change, for all of time. The ones who are adaptable fare best. Watching Becca's video made me wonder and extrapolate. It occurred to me that if the vibration of planet Earth does in fact continue to rise due to the efforts of light workers alongside archangels and other benevolent forces, so too might our ability to manifest altruistic ideas into reality strengthen. In a sense, as we evolve as a species and life form, perhaps God's long game is that as we're already imbued with the same compulsion to create, which is inherent in the Creator, he, she, they will in turn teach us how to be God, or at least more godlike. With practice and an abundance of goodwill and pure intentions, we may learn to more directly manifest the reality in which we wish to live, like The Secret on steroids. I also feel strongly that if we do achieve such powers, that it will only be possible to keep them for as long as we continue to live at a higher altruistic vibration, so that the degree of goodness and the ability to manifest are intertwined. In the event that we fall back to collective selfishness, our vibrations would automatically drop, and the more godlike abilities would wane correspondingly. Then, when we get back on track, the abilities would return. This would be like a built-in fail-safe mechanism, possibly mirroring heaven's own structure, in which the most selfless, enlightened beings who exist at the highest vibrations can travel in all realms at or below their own vibration, yet never above their vibration, until further loving evolution, so that heaven is always inherently vibrationally safe from any form of corruption. It's baked into the design. That is the end of chapter 10. Chapter 11 is one page. No, chapter 12 is not. Ooh. So chapter 11, one page. We will end here. This is called Why God Remains Hidden. A belief in a God/creator doesn't make scientific and intellectual inquiry moot. Our curiosity and desire to learn and grow keep us not only mentally occupied, but filled with awe and wonder. Our inability to solve the existential contradiction at the heart of reality is an ironic blessing because it preserves the most important mystery, which is the origin of the universe and reality. It leaves room for belief and faith, which are almost definitely the best bridges to God. By cleverly hiding the strings of the universe, God helps intelligent beings maintain their wonder and freedom of belief or non belief. It may sometimes be frustrating and unsatisfying to us, but it's also beautiful. When you have reached a level of understanding where you intrinsically trust that whatever happens next in life is what is meant to be and is the best result for all involved, then you're working with the grain instead of against it. Such true faith is easier said than embodied, especially if part of the grand plan necessitates one's own mortal conclusion for a greater good that cannot be perceived from the human vantage point. I can't predict how I would feel if my life were unexpectedly cut shorter than I'd like, but I hope that I'll accept it with some understanding and grace whenever my time comes. And I also hope that crossing over will be quick and relatively painless, though there's no way to know for sure until it arrives. I believe there is a creator, a God, who is in many ways necessarily beyond human understanding, but whose loving essence is simple, direct, and uncomplicated. God is the original source from which all other creations and even realities flow in abundant creative imitation because creativity is the ultimate expression of self. And God is interested in encouraging maximum self realization for its creations, which is another way of saying God wants you to feel fulfilled by the full expression of your own creativity and beautifully unique essence, which was gifted to you for your pleasure and exploration. Be what you came here for. Be as much as you came here to be while you have time. End of chapter 11 and end of this reading. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. If you would like to purchase a copy of Life is Magic and support my creative endeavors, you can go to my website, robfalgiano.com, for a link, or you can go right to Amazon and type in Life is Magic, Rob Falgiano, and it will come up for you. If you would prefer to continue to listen to the free readings, you're, of course, welcome to do that too. So thanks very much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.